Bob Fryer here in the AAPEX studio. I want to thank our sponsors. We've got Repairify and Great Water 360 Auto Care. Joined right now by Philip Atkins. He's with MEMA, Aftermarket Suppliers. Good to have you here, sir.
Thank you, Bob. It's great to be here. Appreciate the time.
You betcha. We're talking about how the market is looking right now, and so talk to me, like sales right now. We're kind of removed from the pandemic, a couple of years. How are sales looking?
Looking pretty strong. Got to say, there was some weakness earlier in the year.
Okay.
But with the second quarter, sales began to brighten. And I'm talking about when we compare this quarter sales to a year ago.
Yeah.
And I look at just what percentage have they changed. Second quarter started to turn around where we were, and the third quarter showed even more strength, by which I mean I'm seeing more of our members reporting positive year-over-year sales.
Anything really specific we can talk about?
Sure, yeah, I'll give you a number, 2%.
2%.
That is the average percent change on a year-over-year basis. So it's a positive number. 2%, not a big number, but here's the strength. All the previous quarters were in the negative range.
Okay.
So to step above into the positive range, that's a good sign of strength.
How do you get data like that? Do the members just fill out a survey and tell you? Do you get data? How do you do that?
That's exactly right. We have a quarterly barometer survey. It's really a management tool. It's short, fairly short, but it asks the key questions. And what they do is they send in, for one thing, what their sales are on a year-over-year basis.
Okay. And how are we looking, towards the end of the year, fourth quarter?
Fourth quarter is probably going to be more the same. We're talking low single-digit, 2 to 3% gain. If I calculate the average, we're probably down a bit from the previous quarter. But and I think that's just because there's a lot of caution in the aftermarket with the macro environment.
That is how you would account for that? Why is that happening, I guess?
Well, there's some other things going on. For example, when I look at the third quarter, the third quarter results, 2/3 of the member respondents said they had positive year-over-year gains. 1/3 said they were negative. For the ones that were positive, they tell us that things have begun to normalize. So their supply chain had normalized, their fill rates were normalized, and they weren't running into overstocks.
Okay.
Now, those who reported negative results, they had a different result experience. For them, they're still bumping into supply chains. They're still, their fill rates are still kind of low, and they're still bumping into overstocks. So when I think ahead to the fourth quarter and what the members are expecting, we think the normalization is going to spread to more of those members, and so we'll be a little bit more positive, but still down in the 2 to 3%, low single digit range.
Yeah. Now you clearly deal with numbers and that's great and facts and so forth, but let me ask you something, your opinion on something. 2 years removed from the pandemic, do you think this is a good recovery so far, or anemic, or how would you categorize it?
The pandemic was really kind of strange, and those aftershocks were too, but during those aftershocks, we really saw some very strong sales, and that's part of the reason why the third quarter had those negative numbers.
Yeah.
Because 2022 across the board were very strong.
Okay.
So the year-over-year comparisons just get harder. I think what we're feeling now is just the wild card of the economy. There's so much concern about interest rates. Do we go into a recession? Possible unemployment, certainly seeing lower consumer confidence, and that typically spreads into lower consumer spending, which affects all the retail sectors. Now for us, the aftermarket, we are more of a priority for a household's budget to keep the car up and running. But if it goes far enough, then even the aftermarket begins to see a drag on sales.
All right, crystal ball it for me. How do you think 2024 is going to be?
Well, I'll speak for the members, and we asked that question in our survey. We asked about their 12-month outlook, and there's a lot of caution there.
Oh yeah.
So if I have a supplier sentiment index, and it's coming in at -1, so that's pessimism. So the results I got back, I had 1/3 of the respondents say they were optimistic, 1/3 who said they were pessimistic, and then 1/3 who were just neutral. Put all those numbers together, and I get a -1 on that index. But that's still not a bad number, because in the previous quarters, quarter two was -6, quarter one was -7. So to be just at -1, just a tiny bit of pessimism
Right.
is not bad. And I'll tell you what accounts for that. The aftermarket members know that the traditional drivers of growth are solid, by which I mean there's plenty of cars on the road and we're getting a few more every year. They are older on average,
Right.
so there's a lot of wear and tear, so that's
Yeah.
good for the aftermarket. Plus our driving behavior is back to pre-COVID levels, despite the fact that we've lost all those commuter miles due
Gotcha.
to remote working. And we've gained that back because there are other driving behaviors that have changed and made up for that. But again, it's the wild card is the economy, and so despite the feeling that the traditional drivers of growth are solid, and if there's nothing else going on, then we would be looking at our pre-COVID trend of 3.5% growth year over year.
Gotcha.
But that's the economy for you.
Yeah, that is. All right, Philip Atkins, we appreciate you, sir.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you
Appreciate
much.
the time.
All right, and while you are out and about here at AAPEX 23, make sure you're taking those pictures and videos and posting them to your favorite social media site, and always use that hashtag AAPEX 23. I'm Bob Fryer right here in the AAPEX studio.